Hello. Oh, that's better. I'm here. Hi, everyone. We are ready to start the evening. Just a quick introduction, but I don't want to take too much time away from the incredible people sitting up here. But my name is Talia Ralph. I'm the editor of TasteTalks.com. We are a series of national food festivals, an awards program, and an editorial platform, and we cover the intersection of food and culture. As our name suggests, we love to get tastemakers and innovators talking about food and creativity and what makes them tick. And so tonight, you have two incredible people on the Los Angeles food scene and beyond. We have Josh Scherer, who's the associate editor of LA Magazine's The Digest. And we have Kelis, who you may know from her music, but may also know from her incredible skills as a chef and cookbook author and entrepreneur. And yeah, they're just gonna hang out and chat about where they get their inspiration from, what they think about food in LA, and we're gonna have time after to hang out with them. So without further ado, let's talk taste. Thank you.
I like to use the phrase tastemaker. I want to just like put that on my resume. I feel like that's a solid.
That's a good
you know what I mean? Yeah, just,
I like that.
Tastemaker. Yeah, so thank you everybody for being here.
This is very cool.
This is great. So just jump right into it. I mean, this is all about, the intersection of culture and food, and you are literally like the epitome of that. I mean, your last album was literally called Food. I feel like it's hard to be more, literal than that, but I mean, can you just kind of like talk about the process of, how you came up with that? And I mean, the opening track of like Breakfast, I mean, it seemed...
Gosh, it's funny. Well, food has first of all always been a huge part of my life. So just kind of in the background of my life, my mom was a chef, and I kind of grew up in a very I don't know. She would just the dishes she would make and everything. So food has always been it's always music and food. They always kind of went hand in hand. When I started recording the Food album, I worked with Dave Sadek, and he's just this really luscious human being, and we recorded in his house, and so there was a kitchen, and so half the time either I was writing or I'm like, we're starving, like let's make something. And we recorded with a full band, and so there was always just a lot of people around, and tons of musicians just like hanging out, and it was either like Todd's playing the trumpet right now, and and Josh is off sitting around, so I was like, oh, well, let's eat. And then Todd comes in and he eats, and Josh starts playing. It was a very kind of interchangeable type thing, and everyone was cooking and recording and writing and doing all these things. And funny enough, when someone asked me what the name of my album was going to be, I had literally put no thought in whatsoever, and I was like, food. And then I was like, oh, that's perfect.
So now when I ask what your creative process is, you just blurt it out, and that's where it comes
Usually.
From. Okay, that's a good way to go.
It either goes really great or terribly wrong, but yes, that is generally how I do things.
Awesome. I mean, what kind of stuff was your mom cooking growing up? She's Puerto Rican and Chinese, right?
Yeah, she is. But she really, she's it's funny, to this day, I think she's still one of the most versed chefs and people that I know. Like, there's rarely anything that I can ask her about, specifically pertaining to food, that she hasn't done before, doesn't know exactly the right way to do it. She's a traditionalist, and so her and we're very different in that sense. But she made everything, and that was kind of the thing. Like, we ate everything, we tried everything, and especially because I grew up in New York, there's so many different things. It's like after church on Sundays, we'd go and eat Polish food down like on 11th and 1st. And then, there was like all the little cuchi frito spots by my sister's school in Spanish Harlem. And then there was, literally it was like the world was on the island for us. And so we ate everything, and that's how I grew up.
That's really funny because I feel like I, take inspiration from the opposite. Like when I grew up, my mom was making like burnt rice-a-roni. I think once she accidentally ashed a cigarette into it, and that was like a whole thing. Beautiful, earthy, carbonized flavor when that happens. Didn't make it on a menu anywhere yet, but like we're still hoping that's, the thing. And so it's like, for me, I kind of learned to cook and got really interested in it almost from the opposite end of like I saw other people eating good food, and so like I wanted to be a part of that culture so badly, especially because, this is when Food Network was coming up really big, and I'd like come home and watch Rachel Ray, doing her thing on TV and stuff. Like you said, you don't really watch a ton of cooking shows, right?
Okay, well, no, I don't. Here's the thing. This sounds crazy. I think food is such an emotional thing for me, and I hate to be the like super artsy but it honestly is such an emotional thing for me that when I went to culinary school, and it was such a spectacular time for me. It was so, I guess, like, the most obvious word really is freeing, you know, the fact that, like, I think we forget, especially in the music business, you know, you are on this track and you're pushing so hard and you're going so consistently and so constantly. You wake up and, for me, 10 years had passed and I hadn't done anything else. You know, I signed my first deal when I was 17. So at 27, I was like, huh. I'm like, you know, this is what I've done my entire adult life. So when I went to school, it was such a different experience for me. When I graduated, it was beautiful because I was able to go back into music, but there was a sadness for me that, like, I literally, like, I couldn't watch other people doing what they're doing, cooking, and I couldn't. It was like such a sad thing. I felt like I went to school and it was so amazing and I loved it so much and I learned so much about myself, and then I felt like I walked away, you know. And I finally found something that, like, I think in music too, we forget that, like, there's other stuff, you know. It's consuming. The music business is absolutely consuming, and so for me, just to feel like I was good at something else, and better even than being good, I was, like, thirsty again, and I was, you know, it kind of awoken up something else in me that I hadn't felt in such a long time. So then when I wasn't cooking and I was on tour, I was just like, ah! And so I would end up cooking in all these random places because I was just like, I had to do it, you know. And it's a very different thing. I think food is a lot more visceral for me even than the music.
Yeah, and it's funny when you use words like right when it comes to food. Like, my mom would show me the right way, you know, learn to do things right. And I know you've kind of said before that, like, you know, for you, music is very, very personal, very emotional, and you kind of make it for yourself. Whereas for food, it's like, you know, it's judged literally by, if something's undersalted, it's undersalted. If it's not mounted with butter at the right time, then, you know, it's actually wrong.
I love it, mounted with butter.
Mounted, yeah, I looked that up for Monte.
I love the term, yes.
I didn't go to culinary school without a disclaimer. But I mean, it's funny because I always feel like when I cook, I'm only cooking for my own personal palate. And, like, I live with my girlfriend and I cook dinner every night, and, like, I know that she hates really spicy, acidic food, and it sucks because I love really spicy, really acidic food. And so I always want to cook for me, but I know that it might not be for someone else. I mean, do you kind of feel that way with your personal process in cooking?
I think the thing is that with music, I never really cared. I just didn't. I think also too because I've been really blessed. I never sought out the business. You know what I mean? My dad was a jazz musician. I literally grew up around some of the most spectacular musicians of all time in New York, and I was like the inappropriate child in, like, you know, the Blue Note before, you know what I mean? Like, my parents brought us everywhere. So for me, music kind of just, it took no thought. It was just what I naturally did. It was like another appendage, you know? Whereas food, I feel like I want it, and I want it to be something that is, it's a gift, you know. It's different. I think with music, I never cared if I was any good. Because it was so part of what I did, you know. Whereas food, it's like I studied and I want it to be great. It's such a emotional thing, you know. Like, I don't know. I'm not even that much of an emotional person, but, like, I was on a plane one day and I was so embarrassed because I watched Chef, and for some reason I started, like, uncontrollably crying.
What do you mean for some reason? That's the power. That's emotional.
But literally, like, sobbing, like messy sobbing. It was so bad. I was like, I don't know why I feel this way. It's terrible.
No one threatened to, like, throw you off the plane because you're having, like.
No, they're just looking at me like, what is she watching? And then they realize it's Chef. They're like, I was like, I don't know. And I think it's just, there's something about it that I feel like it's so connected to human nature and just, like, who we are at the very core. You know, and that's what I love. People always say that music is the universal language. I have to say, I think that food kind of one-ups it. You know, I do feel like it's what connects us.
Yeah, it's funny because, I mean, in my job I have to interview chefs, like, every day, and so many of them use the phrase nurturing as, like, you know, a kind of motif. And I never understood, because so many people try to explain the phenomenon of food being just so inundated in culture right now more than it ever has been by using the phrase, well, everybody eats. It's like, well, like, everybody has a radio in a car, or, you know, everyone listens to music, and that's all around us all the time. But I think there is something different and deeper when, like, you're physically, you know, ingesting it, like you actually need it for survival in a different way. And I think that totally does kind of lend itself to a different part of emotion.
No, for sure. I mean, you know, even just thinking about that concept that like how universal music versus food is, when you know, there are certain cultures that have scales that we don't use. You know what I mean? They use notes that we don't use and harmonies that we're like, what is that? You know what I mean? Whether it's like a Indian sitar or like, it's just so many different things, you know, whereas with food, it's like the more I travel, and this is one of the things that I love so much, and even like what started the whole thought process for my book was just the fact that like everything started to blend in. You know, it's like I was, whether eating like Nigerian jollof rice or you know, when I was living in Spain eating paella, I'm like, it's kind of the same thing. Like, you know, and music's not really like that. Music definitely speaks to the world and to nations, you know, over, but food is like, it's something that comes from your home and it comes from your family, and it's not, music we use so much to rebel, and we use so much to speak out, and we use so much to kind of, you know, show who we are, whereas food, it is who we are. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not, there's no showing in it. It's kind of just like, this is it, you know, and I think it's the most, I always say that I'm the most honest as a chef, I think, than I am with anything else that I do.
That's deep, by the way. If no one wrote that down, you should write that down.
I think I will. It's true though. No, it hit me just, you know, being in the kitchen, and I realized I am most certainly at my best when I'm in the kitchen, and I'm definitely the most honest. You know, I think with music we're able to put on something, you know, and it's funny, just I've been touring for like 15 years, you know, and I know it's natural to me now, but I get on stage and I put something on. And it's not to say that it's fake, because it's not, but there's an on Kelis and then there's like a not on Kelis. Do you know what I mean? Like there's definitely a difference. And with cooking, there is no distinction for me. It's literally the most honest that I know how to be.
That's funny, because it almost seems like it would be the opposite. Like you would have more of a chance to kind of, you know, bare your soul into lyrics or something, whereas in food it's so abstract. You know what I mean? In terms of like being honest with yourself.
I think it's a choice though. I think with music it's a choice. Do you know what I mean? Like you can decide to bare your soul, and you can decide to be really transparent. With food, there's no decision. You know, it's like, this, I can't pretend. It's like, this is it. This is what I have to offer. I can't pretend and make it look cooler, or make it like, this is it. This is all I can give. You know, and so that to me is like, if I were to say like, you know, people are like, what would you be if you were a dish? It's not one dish. You know, it's like, it's the whole process. It's the whole thing. You know, I can't pretend or like, and I can't make you feel something about it. I can make you feel something about music. You know, like if you're good at it, you should be able to do that. With food, I think it's like, either you got it right or you missed the mark, you know?
That's a perfect segue into my next question. If you were one dish, what would it be?
I should have said, I'm like, that question makes no sense.
But no, I mean, if you wanted to show someone like, this is me on a plate, what would you cook for them? Because I think it's a telling question. I think it's
you know, it's interesting so when I wrote my cookbook, I had a very short time to do it, and I had no point of reference, so I didn't know how long it took people to do a cookbook. Later on, they told me about a year. I did it in about a month and a half, almost 2 months. So I was a psychopath. But the point of me saying that is that I didn't have time, like I said, to like really fine tune or really like think out the process. It was kind of just like, bam, 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 this is who I am. This is what I know. I can do this in my sleep, like I got this. I love this because, you know, when I was living in Spain, we ate it every day. Or I love this because my mom made this all the time. Or I love this because I never tasted anything like this in my life, and when I did, everything was different. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I can't say that it's like one thing. I think it's a compilation of things. but there's always sauce involved. I can say that because I love sauce.
Yeah, you like actually trained like as a saucier, right?
I did, yeah.
And that was like a conscious decision. Like you were just like, I'm going to culinary school. I'm going to learn sauces.
Well, no, I started off just kind of like everybody else, and then as as the course progressed, I was always like, this is my dish that I'm presenting, but I made a sauce also because I felt like it needed a sauce. And as I started doing it, my chefs were like, okay, let's hone in on what's happening here. Like, let's focus on this and let's teach you some of the real fundamentals. And then, and then I started to veer off and do my own thing. But that, it kind of just organically started because I love sauce. I'm always the person at the restaurant that's like, hey, this is really good. Is there also something that's like wet that I can like dip or like pour or smear all over this? I'm always that girl. So.
Nice. And I mean, when did you, because I mean, you have your own line of sauces now, right? Very appropriately. How did that come about?
Well, I started in school, which was years ago. It was kind of it was a thought. It was just an idea. And so I started just making all these different things and kind of, I think, it was like sort of really making things that I like. And I wasn't selling them, I was giving them to people. Like my neighbors, I mean, I've made really good friends because of my sauce, honestly.
You sound like an awesome neighbor.
Well, I mean, either that or horrible because I have tons of trash. But on the flip side, like, I'm always making these massive, like, troughs of sauce. And then I'm like, what do I do with it? And so I would bottle it. Then I would just sort of leave it with a note in front of neighbors' doors. I'm like, hey, I live in this building and just had a lot of sauce and it's all natural and enjoy it, share it, or whatever, but I can't physically ingest all of this sauce.
It sounds like a trap though as a neighbor to see a jar that says, I made extra sauce.
Well, I'm like, I don't require any response and I'm not super social, so I'm just like, it's a gift. That's it. I'm just leaving it at the door. It's a little note, so it's not like weird or anything, but this is where I live. You can talk to me about it if you like. If you don't feel obligated. But I have tons of sauce, so that's how it started. And then, like I said, so I went and I put out another album, and like craziness was happening in my life at the time, and I went out on tour, and then I had a baby, and then just like, and that's why I think food really did become kind of like this thing that I wanted so bad, but that I didn't have time. There's so many other things that kind of took over, and finally one day I was like, I'm no more procrastinating. I'm literally just gonna do it. And then, I went through the whole process and that's how it started. But it's still actually, as far as it being a business, where I'm not leaving it on people's doorsteps, it's fairly new. It's just like a little over a year.
Did they fill out like comment cards? Like, was this like your focus group?
No, what's funny though, what started happening is like as I walk in my neighborhood, like I'll take walks or like, the dog or whatever, people are like, hey, love the sauce, if you've got more, like that kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't, but if I make more, I'll drop it off. I'm like, yeah, it's me. I'm like, I'll just walk it down the road. So.
As far as like, creative processes go, I mean, where do you sit on like, writing a song versus like creating a dish? I mean, it sounds like cooking for you is like a reprieve from like, everything else, like that's your comfort zone. I mean, is there any kind of like anxiety built up in cooking for you?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think just as an artistic person, I think we're always like, I feel super arrogant and confident in my own space. And then as soon as you get out, you're like, oh God, like, why am I here? What have I done? Like, I'm always just like, I've committed myself and now I'm here and now people expect me to do this, And so I always get a moment of like, where I'm like sweating profusely. I think that with the food, it's more, I think because it is so emotional and it is such a love thing for me that like I said, I'm never offended with music. Like I don't, if people don't like it, I'm like, it's not for you. I probably don't like you either, Whereas with the food, I'm kind of like, why don't you? Like it's so good. And it took so much time and like I can tell you every layer and every moment and like, it's just different, there's such a different process, I think. I don't care what people, my creative process is very different with music just because I'm in my own thoughts and I'm thinking about myself and,
Yeah. You would be the chef who like, if a dish got sent back, you'd like come out and go to the customer.
Absolutely.
Like,
No, let's talk about it. I'm like, let's discuss.
Do you find yourself doing that? Or like, how are you as like a customer at a restaurant? Like, do you find yourself like picking it apart, like the dishes? Or are you just sit back for the
Okay,
ride?
well, it's funny. I always compare myself to my mom because my mom, well, first of all, she's just like the food. She's my first experience with great food, but she's completely unrealistic, and so I find it really agitating to go out to eat with her. We'll be somewhere. I mean, it's just like we'll be at an airport. I'm like, there's certain expectations that you know what I mean? Like you're at an airport. How?
None. Expectations
Right. I mean,
should be
and
none.
if it's edible, you're like, this is great. Like this steak doesn't suck. Like
I'm not getting
great.
salmonella before my flight. That's
Right.
fine.
My mom is the total opposite. Every place, she's like, if you're serving food, it should be immaculate. I'm like, why do you feel that way? And she's impossible to go out. And if she likes something, I just feel I'm like score. Like because I'm always trying to tell like, let's go, here, let's try this, and this is a new chef, and it's fun for us. But she's always she's extremely critical. Whereas with me, I think I know what I'm walking into, and so sometimes I'm like, yeah, I just wanted a burger, and like I'm a New Yorker. I love New York pizza, so I'm particular about pizza, but like I'm very realistic, I think, about where I'm at and. Just how I feel. I'm not one of those people that's like, the other thing is I used to be a waitress. I was a waitress for years. So I'm not the person that's like, this is disgusting, take it back. I'll kind of just be like, it's still amazing. Like, I'll just push it aside. Maybe I'll order something else. I'm known for that. Like, I'll just get more. I'm like, let's try something else. This didn't work. Let's try something more.
That's the courteous way out. Also, as a native Angelino, I'd like to apologize for our pizza here.
I don't get it though. I'm like, why? It's so strange to me. I feel the same way though about like Jamaican food and Cuban food here. It's like somehow in this great country we couldn't figure out how to get it across. Like why? I don't understand it. There's no. I mean, listen. People argue with me all the time. I'm like, I'm down for the fight. There's no good Jamaican food here, and. Yeah, there's really no good Cuban or Puerto Rican food, like really great. I mean, come on, there isn't. It's like, and the funny thing is, I drive all over the place because people are always like, oh no, this one's great. It's right by the airport. Or this one's amazing, it's in Alhambra. I'm like, fine, I'll drive. I'm like, okay, I'll make a day of it, no big deal. And then I get there, I'm like, really? First of all, it's LA traffic, so I'm like, I spent the entire day I'm like, to get here for subpar Caribbean food. I'm like, this sucks, it pisses me off. It's the same thing with pizza. Like, why? What's the deal? People say it's the water, which I have to say New York does have amazing water, but I don't know. I can't figure out why the pizza game here is.
That's all sounds like the lamest excuse to me. It's like, we just, it's the tap water, it doesn't,
I mean, but New York water is spectacular, I have to say. I'm like, let's be real, it's really good. The only place where you can actually like turn on the faucet and not feel disgusting. It's so good, right?
I like the chlorine taste in our water.
Yeah,
It's gives a pizza that nice little twang. Also, the Jamaican place by the airport, was that Derek's? Were you talking smack on Derek's right there?
I don't think it's Derek's. It's something. It wasn't even I can't even remember the name. Like that's how unfantastic it was. But it was by the airport, and it was not amazing.
Would you ever think about getting into the restaurant game?
Honestly, it's that's where I'm headed. That's definitely what I want to do. I think the issue more so is like just when. I think I have the right concept right now. I've gone through a million in my mind of what my, it's like a first album, I guess, like what is it going to be? But yeah, that's definitely where I'm headed. I like being in the kitchen probably more than I like doing anything else on a daily basis. Which is good. I mean, because touring is great, but it's like, it's a month, 2 months, it's not like a life. Like I can literally cook every day and still feel excited and still feel like, there's something to learn and there's something new about it.
Yeah, definitely. Do you ever cook for your mom? I mean, it sounds like your mom is like the harshest restaurant critic in the world. If she ever wants to freelance some pieces, that'd be great.
Yes, I do. But it's more because like I want to honor her and like she's been so great to us that like, I want to, but it's a stressful situation. It's never like I just threw this, like she's very like, I made something once and she was like, bless her, she's really a fantastic person, but she was like, I made something and she was like, while she was eating it, she's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, this is so good, this is delicious. Wow, like, oh, so good. And then after she was full, she's like, it must have been because I was starving.
No.
And I was just like, She doesn't mean it. She's just so like.
My heart sank when you said
No,
that.
it's just, the thing is,
You watching Chef on
no,
a
she's
plane.
very. Here's the thing. She's very. First of all, she's my biggest fan. So that's she's definitely with everything I do. She's always like so encouraging, and she's like absolutely girl, like you go do it. She's amazing in that way, but she's also just like she has no filter, like zero, just no filter. And it wasn't anything fancy that I made, which is where I took it from. Like that's where she was coming from. But she does say things that are just so kind of like cha cha. You're like, what is that? But that's just her way, and she's very like, yeah. On the same note, like she'd give you like a kidney. You know what I mean? Like she's that person. So she's not gonna coddle you, but she's all or nothing.
Tough but fair, I think, is
She
what
is.
people...
She definitely is. You know, it's funny too though, because like she's like if I make something for her, I'm like, this is my, and I don't usually phrase it this way with her. I'm like, I had a Moroccan themed night, or I'm gonna do like a Korean. I love a theme, so I'm always doing like some sort of theme thing at my house. You know. She'll be like, this was really delicious. It's super tasty, but I wouldn't call it Korean per se. Like she's very like she's a traditionalist like to the death. You know, she's like 65 like New Yorker. You know what I mean? She's like, you can't pry the city out of her like claw. She's like everything about it. She's like, this is how it is. There's no other way to do it. And so everything I do to her is like a kind of fusion or a take on. You know, and so she's like, this is how you do it. This is a tangine, that's it. Like there's no room for interpretation. She's right though. Like she's right, but then I'm just like, hey, well, let's, I added, and she's like,
I mean, that's like the city who invented the Korean taco. I feel
oh, God,
like...
no.
Don't even tell her about that.
She would die. She's like, I don't know what this is.
So, I mean, where are your favorite places to eat in LA? Like, are there any chefs that you, like, fangirl out over?
I love the guys from Animal. I think that they're super exciting. I love, I'm horrible with names, so I'll always just say like the place, like I never know the name of anybody. I love the chick from AOC. Although to be honest, she's great. I can't remember her name, but she's amazing. I recently went to the dude, Chago, which I thought was really great too. I just like what he's doing. Also, I just think it's super interesting. Then also there's so many like kind of just little like noodle spots and little random like tacos here and like like guisados like I love, and it's just little things like that. I feel like LA has tons of nooks, and like I love Korean barbecue, so like after trying all of the super cute places, we found this like the first Korean barbecue place like in LA, and it's like they're mean to you, and it's great. Like it's so good. They're so rude. They don't want to talk to you. They refuse to speak to you in English, and you just take it. You're like, yeah.
My favorite song.
All the waitresses wear red lipstick though, which I super respect. Like, it's amazing, It's like,
my favorite song, they come and they like take the tongs and the scissors out of your hands.
Oh, they're like, no, you're stupid. I will do this. Yeah.
And I'm always like, you're right, I am stupid.
Yeah, no, they're like, you couldn't possibly
I'm not nearly
cut
qualified.
this properly. Yeah, they're like,
Yeah, I always welcome it.
oh, I love it. I'm gonna abuse me. It's good. I love it. It's fantastic.
I was trying to like see how high I can sneak the grill up though. And
Oh, I do all kinds of stuff because obviously I've got this. I'm doing this. They're like, you don't have this.
Yeah, they all see you too. They're always
They'll
watching.
show you. Yeah, of course. They don't care. I love it though. It's great. Like,
Yeah.
I love that. I love the no substitution kind of like spirit about it. It's like, this is it. They're like, we have 3 meats. I'm like, 3 meats? They're like, that's it.
You'll like it.
Yeah, that's all you're getting.
Little tip
Like, can I get the kimchi rice now? They're like, no, after. But I'm full by the time because they don't care. They're like, no. We're giving it to you later.
That's funny. Like I love the no substitutions policy anywhere.
I love it. I was reading something. No, I love that. I'm like, I think it's funny too. I feel like it's because it is so like. Well, I think LA specifically though is very everyone's like dressing on the side and don't add that and then it becomes something different and it's kind of like unless there's an allergy like just take it. That's how it is. This is someone's idea. Can't change their idea. Like this is it. Like take it that way.
It's funny. I think that's something that like totally grew out of this idea of food. These chefs kind of being held as an artist now, which I mean I'm totally for, and even a lot of chefs like don't like the term artist at all. But it's like when I go to a restaurant, I'm not there to be treated a certain way. It's like I'm there to experience what you have to offer, and so it's like kind of the way hospitality is changing now is like I don't want to be served. I want to feel like I'm serving this art form that you're creating in some sense.
What's interesting too though, it's funny because I just watching like kind of this birth of all of these like, and not that they've just started, but that they're finally getting like their due in the whole food world. I feel like there's a vast difference, and people hate when I say this, but I feel it very strongly. So I think there's a vast difference between cooks, chefs, and then I call them food expressionists. And I think that it's almost kind of like, like they're a whole different breed, and so I don't know, I find you gotta know where you're at. Do you know what I mean? Like know where you're at, and then on the flip side, know your audience. But I do think that there's kind of, those are the distinctions that I make. I feel like there is a difference there. I don't think we should all be in the same category because we're all so different. And there is, it's the same thing. There's country music and then there's like, house music. I mean, they're not the same. They don't make you feel the same. They don't do the same thing.
Yeah, it's like, would you identify with the term chef? Like, would you be like?
I'm definitely a chef. I am not a food expressionist.
Where do you draw the line in those?
I respect, like, utterly respect the chefs that that use it as an art form. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're almost like painters. And they're tormented the same way. Do you know what I mean? It's very, like, it hurts. And I guess I have that element, but I think my goal is different. My goal is not always to shock. I'm not trying to shock you. I want you to try something different, but my goal is not to make you uncomfortable. And I think there's a lot, and there's nothing wrong with it, because like I said, there's definitely a place for that, and I love it. And there's some chefs and I look at it and I'm just like, it's just beautiful. I don't even want to eat it. It's so beautiful, that it is an experience. But for me, because food is it's so based on memory and personality and culture and all these things, it should fill you. It should warm you. I want you to sweat a little bit. I want your taste buds to like do stuff. You know what I mean? And I think that's a little bit different than the food, the food expressionists their goal, I think, is a little bit different. I think there should be a distinction, honestly.
Yeah, for sure, because it's a lot of chefs, even in that kind of food expressionism movement, which I think you invented that term. Did you? Does that come from?
I don't know.
Like,
I was watching, one of these like Netflix things, and I was just like, it's gorgeous, like it's amazing. But if I'm hungry and you bring that to me, I'm gonna be furious. And it's not to take away from the art or the skill, because my God, it's mesmerizing. But it's different. It's like, yes, you're a genius. You literally made something float in and it's edible. That's mind-blowing. I love that. I absolutely love that. But I don't know that someone's going to crave that. And there's not a right or wrong in it. It's just a matter of what your goal is, and that's what I'm saying. I think that there's a different goal for different people and for different kinds of chefs. Some cooks are just cooks and they're like, it's food. And then other people, it's a love thing. And then some people it's a science, which is brilliant. I didn't ever understand or even care for the science of it until I started having to get FDA approval for sauces, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare. But in that, I have this, like, he's my food chemist, and every time I have an idea and I bring it to him, first of all, I want to note that he's literally never, ever tasted a single sauce of mine. Which at first I was furious. I was just like, this is not going to work. Like, this relationship will not do. But what I found so intriguing about him was that he was so on point. And it's because for him it's about the science of it. He never had to taste a thing. It was literally like, if I'm like, I need more, I want it to be rounder. And I could only describe, like, I want roundness. I want more of like a, and he's like, oh, okay, so that means you need, we've got to bring the bricks up, and we've got to, and I was just like, oh, so it's sugar and butter. And he's like, yes. I'm like, oh, I understand that. Do you know what I mean? Like, but we spoke completely different languages, but we had the same, the same goal. So I respect it, but I do think that it comes from a different place, and it should be received differently.
Yeah, definitely. I also love that, like, you probably have like a stylist and things, and you also just have like a food chemist on that same level of like, relationship and employership.
I don't actually have a stylist, but yes, like the food chemist is someone who I hold near and dear at this point.
That's great. You should like like music awards that you want to thank my food chemist.
It's true. I'm like, thank you.
Rounds out all my sauces.
It is. Well, it'd be just to interpret. I think because it is so personal to be able, and I'm such a control freak too. To be like, here's my recipe. It's like the words are like. It's daunting, but to actually hand it over, and then to have this person who, is coming from a completely different place, have to recreate this, and to make it right, that took a lot of trust on both of our parts. We really had to learn each other's language and learn how to trust each other. And yeah, if there were an award ceremony, I would totally thank him. Like, Barry, you rock. Love him.
Shout out to Barry. It's funny you talk about like tasting menus and stuff. Like I literally have a map of like post-tasting menu taco trucks to go to after eating very dainty, artistically.
Right.
And it's great. It's so much cheaper too. It's phenomenal. It's like just eat there and skip the other part.
Well, I think I never ever want to be disrespectful or take anything from it because, like I said, it's an art and it's a gift. Like not everybody can do it, But yeah, it's like I want someone to crave. Like I want you to, there are moments like when I get to New York, there are certain things I have to go get, and it's like, and when I get back off tour and I come home to LA, I'm like, there are things I'm like, before we even get to the house, I'm like, stop off on the way home, you know what I mean? Like I've got bags in the car, I'm like, I've been thinking about this for months. I want that, I love that, because that's the only way you can really become part of people's lives. You become part of their memories, and you're cooking from your memories and from your experiences, but it becomes then part of their lives. If she's eating something and she loves it and she's craving it, she had a great first date and she ate it, or she, you know what I mean? It's like they become part of and that's how it's spreading. I love that. It's this like kind of wildfire that goes. And that for me, that's my thing. That's my drive. And it's different than, like I said, some chefs who might want the shock value. I don't want to shock you. I want to bring you in. I want to it's like a kind of, I don't love hugs in real life, but like it's my hug. Do you know what I mean? It's like my kind of like squeezing thing. It's like I want to love and I want to that's what I can offer. I can actually give you that.
Gotcha. I know not to hug you after this. Sorry for even being but
it's a good dab, high five situation.
That's really cool. Does that analogy kind of like exist in music too, where it's like, food has to be delicious first, interesting second? Do you think that's kind of the same in music at all? Like it has to be like aesthetically pleasing, or is that totally on a different plane?
That's interesting. I think yes. I want to say yes. Well, yes, it does. Now the question is, should it be? So no, it should not be that way, but yes, it is. And I think the reason why it is because with music, we're buying into a lifestyle, a whole thing. Like it was sad actually. I watched this movie. I love movie and TVs, by the way, so I'm always referencing a movie or
except for cooking shows.
Because they give me anxiety, gives me stress. But what is it, like 20 Feet from Stardom, or is that what it's called? Something like that? Did you see that?
Yeah, is that about the
right? Is that what it's called?
Backup singers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is cruel, so forgive me, but this is true. This is really how I felt. When I went in to watch the movie, my first thought was like, these chicks were super talented and amazing, and like they never got their due. I left thinking, there's a reason. And as unfair and unjust as it might be, it's true. I'll say this to, and I've said this from the beginning of my career. I've never proclaimed to be the best singer. I've never proclaimed to be the prettiest or the most talented in anything. But I know that what I do, I am the only one who does it. And that's why I've been in this business successfully for the better part of 20 years. And it has something to do with the talent, but that's really not the driving force. It's the whole thing. People buy into the lifestyle. They buy into, that's why there are fans. It's like you look at this person. I mean, think about it. Like, Kurt Cobain he's no freaking stellar vocalist, but he changed my life. Do you know what I mean? Like, it blew me away. I came up in the punk era, or grunge rather, grunge era, and it was literally like, flannel shirts and Doc Martens. It was everything, you know, and so, but I didn't love him because I was like, oh, he sounds so beautiful. Like, you know, it wasn't because it was like ethereal and like his tone was, it wasn't that, you know what I mean? Like, or Nina Simone or any of these amazing catastrophic humans that put music out. We, you know, the talent is kind of, to me, it's always, do I believe them? You know, and I think it kind of goes back to the honesty. For me, that's always the best. You're going to get the best if you can believe it. There are some really talented people who I don't buy at all. I'm like, I don't buy it at all. And it's not because they're not talented. I'm like, I have such a long list. I'm like, I'll send it. But you know what I mean? It's not because they're not talented. It's just because I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I'm like, okay. The talent was given. And that's the thing. The talent was given. So you can't take credit for it, you know? It's what you do around it and who you genuinely are around it. I think that is what matters. And so I think it is about what package it comes in and what it looks like and how it's presented first, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think the food, I think it's the same, because I think honestly it's about what it looks like. It's hard to get me to try something if it's hideous. Like it's a rough one. And I think it's because I was raised that way. My mom would literally throw out massive amounts of stuff, which is very wasteful, I know. But if it didn't look beautiful, she's like, I'm not going to serve this to anyone, you know. And so I learned to respect food. I learned to respect the hands in the food, and just the people who you're serving. You know, I think it's so important to make everything enticing. You know, and so I think, yeah, as far as music and food go, they do have that in common.
Yeah, and it's really interesting now. I mean, in food, you see more chefs like selling an actual lifestyle. I mean, one down to Gordon Ramsay literally has a pressure cooker that he sells with his face on it. It's a metaphor because he's like a pressure cooker. Right? Yeah. No, we all get it. I think they ended up all on like the shelves at Ross and like, you know, marked down like 90% now. Really, it's not very good. But it's really funny how you see the kind of like dynamics change. I mean, even the guy, John Shook and Vinny DiTolo from Animal, I mean, they actually have a corresponding line of shoes with each of the restaurants now with bands. I mean, like, do you see, they're actually pretty awesome too, I really want to get some. Anyways, as I like criticize the way chef culture is going, totally gonna spend all my money on it. Amazon pre-order.
I love that though, I think it should be that way. You know, the fact that like chefs got so overlooked for so long, I feel like they deserve the kind of like overly kind of pretentious attention right now. You know, I feel like you said before, everybody eats, you know, and it's such a huge part of everything we do. I mean, think about and I always say this, every social event, if it's a good one, there's food. You know, my mom always used to say, she's like, a party without cake is just a meeting. I was like, word, that's so true. I was like, yes. I'm like, it's so simple and yet so profound. I'm like, everything good's around food. Do you know what I mean? Like everything, whether it's a wedding or a graduation or birthday. I mean, hell, a funeral. Like every monumental moment always has food around it. And so it's like, yeah, these people should be hailed and like, you know, kind of lifted up, because the other thing is that it's the most unglamorous job, you know, and yet like people put so much heart into it. I mean, I've been burned and cut so many times. It's like someone should acknowledge
singing or cooking?
Definitely cooking.
Cooking, okay, gotcha. Yeah. Sorry, lost track.
Yeah, no, I bite back. No, yeah, I think chefs deserve to be acknowledged. You know, like they're always in the trenches. They're always in the back, kind of like everyone's out dressed beautifully and, you know, drinking expensive wines, hopefully, and you know, all these great things, and then they're just sweating in the back. And if no one acknowledges that this is happening, it kind of, you know, it goes unsaid and it goes unnoticed.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny you talk about, like, you know, in music there being that kind of honesty, and that's the way that I feel about a lot of, you know, chefs. I mean, there's a Night Market, the restaurant, it's actually right over here. It's also the way I've kind of felt about, his name's Chris Yunbum, the chef. And, you know, his parents owned like one of the OG Thai spots in West Hollywood, and like, you know, he isn't a trained chef. He just, you know, went on this like pilgrimage to northern Thailand and just like learned all the dishes, you know, from where his family's from, and comes back and cooks that in like a really like raw, unrefined way. And to me, it's like, you know, you said Kurt Cobain's not the best singer. this guy might not mount all his sauces with butter perfectly.
Right.
Second time that's come up. Proud of that. But it's something that, you know, it really speaks on like a visceral level.
No, it does, and that's you know, like I said, I think the thing about food too is that it's not. It is so like the things I love, and I notice this now as a chef. I don't think I really paid attention to it before, but now that food is like so part of everyday, you know, everything I'm doing. Like my husband, for example, like there's certain things he's like, why don't you like that? I'm like, I don't know. Like I don't. You know, and it's really because like growing up, like if my mom wouldn't serve it, she made so many different things. So there's certain things that she didn't make. I think I don't know, it's like subconsciously I'm like, I don't like it either. You know, and it's funny, like even things that are my favorites, like silly things, like pistachio ice cream. It didn't hit me until really just thinking about, you know, what I wanted to write about in the book, that I realized it was my dad's favorite. I haven't thought about it, I mean, like, my dad's ice cream, like my dad passed away years ago. Like I hadn't thought about what his favorite ice cream was, but like, just thinking about things that speak to me, you know, I was like, oh, that was his favorite. Like, that's so strange, you know, like it's, yeah, gosh. And I never even thought, I literally never had the thought, you know, but it is about who we are and just kind of what we were exposed to. And, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be honest, you know, and it's not for everyone. You know what I mean? Some people are going to love this and some people aren't going to love it. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just like what we are able to accept and you know, that's the other thing. It's like, it's food something you're ingesting. You know, it's like you're actually like putting it into your body. Like that's why it's so important. You know, I hate processed food. You know, like it's like I want it to be good and I want it to be identifiable. I want you to be able to pronounce everything that's there. You know.
Monosodium glutamate's not that hard to pronounce. It rolls off the tongue. It's actually kind of poetic.
I hate it. Now when I look at like a 11-year-old girl with like giant boobs, I'm like, it pisses me off. like that's not normal. There's something going on. Like,
Flaming hot Cheetos and hormones in the milk. It's
horrible. It's horrible. It's awful. And you know, I've got kids, so like there are moments where you cave because your kid's looking at you like I will literally go off. Like, you know, like fine, have the Slurpee. I'm like, but don't get the blue one. Like it makes a difference. Like it's in my mind. I'm like, get the red one. There is red food. I'm like, get the red one.
You gotta take like the small victories where you
literally, I'm like, listen, pick your battles. I'm like, pick your battles. But overall, I'm like, I want to be able to like, you know, identify with everything that we're eating and everything that we're, you know, that we're making part of our lives.
It's so weird because I like grew up on a lot of processed food, so for me that's like.
Do you cook though? Can you cook?
Oh, I do. I can cook, and but I still like have a real soft spot for it. And I think there's culinary value in Kraft American Singles. They have natural emulsifiers in them.
No, listen. I can't say that I completely disagree. I wouldn't necessarily like, you know, serve it, but I get it. I do get it because it's stuff that we grew up with, you know, and it's kind of like we used to sneak and get that stuff because my mom was not buying it, but like, yeah, that kind of thing, you know, like. People know because I say it, like I love Wetzel pretzel. I don't know why, it's just this, I'm sure there's something that's not good for us in there. It's like it's dough, it's like addicting.
Can you imagine there is anything
why is the dough addicting? Like that's not normal. Like I wake up thinking about it. But yeah, I mean, I get it. It's funny, I was doing a sauce demo last week and like I was talking about it and I was like, you know, because I've worked really hard to make the sauces all natural and I know that it's a hell of a lot more expensive. So I'm like, you know, everything's all natural and everything is vegan and gluten-free and all this stuff I'm spewing. And this guy walks up and he's like, my body loves preservatives. I was like, yeah, okay. I'm like, I get it.
You're laughing now, but he's going to live to like 115.
No, I'm like, literally, I'm like, he's going to be preserved from the inside. But we're all aging with organic heirloom tomatoes and stuff.
Yeah. All right, well, I think we're running out of time. It's a signal that I saw out of the corner of my eye. Good looking out. But yeah, I mean, thank you so much for sitting down.
Thank you. No, totally.
Thank you guys all for coming. Thank you to the Soho House, founded in 1942. Oldest structure in West Hollywood. That's a total lie, but really, this is great. Thank you guys
awesome.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Let's stay and hang out.